I literally cannot believe that we are on episode 3 already of this. I am Khandie. I am the absolute gobby cow that someone once referred to me quite recently, actually. Always the way. Someone's outspoken, happens to be female. Obviously, we're gobby. But let's get into this. So today's episode is actually one that's more about what you guys said to me about mistakes that you've made and like just asking to share them. It was a bit of a confidential time, and I thought, yeah, okay, let's put it out there. Obviously, no names attributed to them. And I'm going to give you my insight, which for what it's worth, probably not, but it'd be quite interesting to see because some of these mistakes I was like, whoa, and others I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. But let's go, because I want you to have a good time. So get yourself a coffee, get yourself a vodka, whatever your thing is today. I am still on the mint tea era of my life. I don't get it. I don't know why. It's like warm mouthwash. But anyway, also we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened at the photo show in March, because I want you to come along. I urge you to come along. There's been a lot of negativity about it. I don't really get it. I do kind of, but I don't. We'll get into it. So let's start with the mistakes, because honestly, only mistakes is how you kind of learn. And I've made a couple of doozies on my way, so I'll be sharing some anecdotal information about how I nearly effed up my entire career. So let's go. I'm going to start with one that's both personal and someone else shared this, and that was trusting the wrong person to help in your business. Now, I've had this a few times. I've had it where I had a cleaner who I paid while I was away to do a deep clean on the studio. I came back, it was still a bomb site. It was absolutely a mess. And I paid her regardless, walked in, and I had what, an hour before my shoot to deep clean everything. I was not happy. Now, that's only a minor thing, but I've also recommended someone for a job because I couldn't do it and said, oh, this person, having worked with them extensively, and I mean extensively, on a variety of projects, only for them to show up unprepared and actually do a real poor job, to the point where the client said, no, it's not on you, but you don't need to be recommending this person ever again. And I saw their work and was a little shocked. Thankfully, not a massive reputational damage to me. But yeah, so the moral of the story is, unless I am absolutely desperate, I don't often refer work, which is weird because I do refer work. But yeah, I am very cautious when I share work, because although it's not my name, it can go on to others. And one person here shared they trusted the wrong person with editing. Now, often you get these speculative emails, I'm sure you've had them, I've had them, where somebody says, oh, I'll do this, trust me to do it. And then you come back and you get this horrifically plasticky skin and you're doing a natural retouch and you're like, no. I'll be honest, they're few and they get a few of those emails, and we all get them. I don't know what to say to you other than just be doing your research. Trusting the wrong person is also what someone shared, that they trusted someone who's an accountant only for them not to be an accountant, and they end up having a massive tax bill and a little bit of a sticky wicket with HMRC over it. If you are trusting your business, any part of your business, somebody, you need to check them out and get credentials, particularly if they are an accountant. We don't need that. That's actually quite shocking. I do know that in the town where I used to live, not Northampton, but another town, there was an accountant there absconded with everybody's money. And still to this day, HMRC are billing the people who basically got ripped off by him because they still need to be paid. No compassion there from the government, but what else is new? A very common one, which I'm sure a lot of you will understand, it's underpricing because you think somehow it's going to get you amazing clients. I'm going to tell you this very, very slowly. In my experience, and those who I spoke to, the clients that do the bargain hunting are often the ones that you spend the most time appeasing, which ultimately leads to burnout, and you absolutely hate your job, you end up quitting. So let's not scrape the bottom of the barrel when it comes to price, and actually understand what our cost of doing business is. Because if you can't do the basic math on your business, you shouldn't be in business, because it should actually be known to you how much it costs you, and you should keep like a little tally. So I know when the rent in something goes up, or the subscription goes up, I put it in this little spreadsheet. That's a tip, have a spreadsheet, and it tells me how much it is per day, per hour, so I know what I'm doing. I'm not undercharging. Now, people often tell me I'm quite cheap, which I'm like, am I? But that's because I don't have massive overheads. Now, I could have a massive profit, I guess, and slowly my prices have creeped up, I'll admit that. But I have had quite a comfortable existence, and a lot of what I do is stuff that you don't often see me sharing. Okay, so sometimes I'm doing editing for other photographers. I'm also shooting for other photographers because they are outsourcing their work to me. But we move on from this one. Top tip: you need to attract the right clients. Now, there is a client for every budget, and there is a client for every photographer. It's just how you present yourself and where you want to be on that scale. Okay, so that's sort of what I think. That's quite a common one, though. This is a personal bugbear of mine. going on too many marketing courses. Now, you might think, oh, but Khandie, I need to run a business. I agree with you, my love. You need to run a business. But where you learn that business from is absolutely essential to sort of investigate. I once saw a woman claiming that she managed to increase someone's reach and this was an amazing thing. Well, yeah, you got to 41,000 people. That's great. But of those 41,000 people, only 82 people clicked like on that. Only 12, what was it? Hang on. Let me check my numbers. Only 57 left comments, which means for the most part, you spammed 41,000 people because they weren't interested. Why would you use that as an advert for your marketing company? Because what that tells me is you did blanket to everybody and got very little traction on it. That isn't a great thing. And yet this person sells herself as somebody for photographers to learn from, as somebody has an education in social media analytics. I love a numbers game and I like to look at these. Now, I do teach a little bit, and here's my top tip in marketing. Make it authentically you. I don't know why I've got an accent suddenly. Make it authentically you. You know, you don't need to be every single day on it, but you can't be there for 1 month and then not there for 2. Just automate things. That's what it's there for. A lot of this stuff you can find out for yourself instead of going on a lot of these courses. There are some amazing courses that is not telling. Where is this accent coming from? a lot of these courses are a load of BS. Now, I've been on a few. One of the courses I went on, which wasn't really marketing, but it did help my business, was Chris Ord. This is no way endorsed by him, but I went to him for some advice. He gave me valuable advice. Well worth the money. That being said, if you go to the photo show, which I said I was going to talk about later, but I'm going to just drop it in here now. If you go to the photo show, if you're a pro photographer, you can qualify under certain terms and conditions for a free one. If you can't get qualified for the free ticket, you can use SPK20, I think it is. I'm sure that's the code. And you can get a discount and come along. And there is so many people there who you will learn from for free. I'm also doing, on the 10th of March at around 12 o'clock, a free-for-all where you can come and ask me whatever you want. We're going to be sat near some coffee, having a few seats. Come and ask. I don't want to gatekeep nothing. I don't want anyone to sit there and think, oh, I don't want to ask, I'm embarrassed. You can have a quiet word with me over a cuppa and we can talk about it. Am I the Queen's knowledge of everything? No. But do I have a business that works out pretty well? Yes. Am I making waves? Sometimes. Am I living a good life? Absolutely, except when it comes to cleaning up. I hate cleaning the house. I'm so glad I got a robot hoover. But there are so many marketing courses out there that I swear are snake oil. And the other thing I hate is when somebody tells you something but doesn't give you the full information of what you actually need, yet you've paid to attend that course, and they go, oh no, that's in my other course, and so you then have to buy into this loop. Now, I think that's a great marketing if that's what's your thing, but don't tell people that you made a load of money for your photography business when actually most of your money was done from your marketing course that you sold to people, because you're not really selling your photography, you're selling your marketing. My 2 cents on that. Another beautiful one that I think is a valuable lesson from anyone in business is learning how to say no more than you say yes. Now, when we're first starting out in business, we're like, I need the money, I need the credibility, I need the clients, and we all go, yes, 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 yes. But the projects don't align with your style or your brand. And so you're not really doing yourself any favours. Now, I know money is what everyone wants in this day and age, and I think that's great. But I'll be honest, your time is probably better off spent learning some skills via the power of YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's Khandie Photography. Have a look. It's beautiful. But there's other ones. Check out Gavin Hoey, Adorama. There's some great ones off the top of my head. Flern. Loads. There's loads of them. Have a look. And that's better for you because, honestly, if someone says, oh, I'm not sure if you shoot these, if you shoot everything, that can be quite concerning. Now, if you're good at everything, well done. You're a genius. But when people say, who's the headshot photographer you recommend, and they've seen you do quite a lot of sports that month, and they've seen you do a few weddings, they're probably not going to think of you as the headshot photographer, are they? But headshots is what you really want to be promoting. So maybe think about saying no sometimes. And also, just some projects are just not worth it doing because they can be not great for yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, time-wise, and you don't have the equipment, the knowledge base, everything. It's okay to say no. Seriously, learn it. Now, ironically, I'm doing this on a podcast, and one of the things what the photographers messaged me was saying how people obsess over social media. You are correct. However, I want to say obsessing over social media and using social media are not to be confused. Social media is not your portfolio. It might be more your marketing platform, though. So I find it really unusual that people still don't have websites. Now, there are many websites. Go on YouTube, you know which one it is. Squarespace, Wix. There's loads of them, yeah? There's loads. You can go, I think even Pixie Set do it with their brand. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Right? Everybody has social media, I'm pretty sure, is a photographer, or should have if they're looking, because that is where today's customers are, be it whatever social media platform that is. But obsessing over it, thinking that's what makes you successful, it does not. There are many photographers, and let's just use it as general, people on the internet who appear incredibly successful who actually are not successful. I have a friend who works out in LA. She literally is paid to hire out houses so social media influencers can look like they own them and pose around them to do their content so people buy into them. She says there's one famous content creator who literally uses my friend's actual car, pretends it's her car, and does some really big brand deals because people think she lives that life. The girl lives in a 1-bedroom flat downtown. No shame on her, but the idea is what's on the internet is not necessarily equating to absolute money. It's a bit like, for me, being famous, if you like, on social media is kind of like being rich in Monopoly. Very rare you're actually going to be super rich or actually get much in it. Yes, you could get some brand deals, but how many of them are paying for you? Is the social... And here's the other thing. Just because someone's got a lot of followers, it doesn't mean they're a good influencer, because people can look at pictures but not buy from them. And a lot of people fall down this trap because they think if they have loads of followers, that makes them successful. No, it's your engagement. Remember I told you about the social media analytic background? Yeah. So if people are engaging, commenting, sharing your stuff, that's fantastic. That's really what you want. You don't need 100 million followers. What you need is people in your comments, people talking to you, replying to you, which is why I do things like, hey, what's your biggest pitfall in photography? Because I want to use it for a podcast, and people write to me. As long as it's anonymous, they write to me. Guess what? Engagement, interaction, worth a lot more than just having a few people like my pictures, and worth a hell of a lot more than people just following me. So the more we realise that, the better. And it's not so much obsessing, but you are meant to check in on it occasionally. But if you're doom scrolling for hours and getting this sort of imposter syndrome, get off it. Seriously, just get off it. Just unfollow the people that make you feel bad. If that's me, that's me. And just look after your mental health and stop obsessing, because I tell you what, just as quick as you've got your account, it can quickly be removed, as we see all the time, and everything's lost. And if you're using that as your main portfolio platform, you're in a bit of a sticky place. So remember, it's just there for marketing. Now, I never thought I'd come across this. Someone said to me that when they first built their professional photography website, they thought Comic Sans was an acceptable font choice. Now, when I read that, I had to read back. I don't think there's any point Comic Sans is acceptable in professional thing. I once got a letter from a doctor in Comic Sans, and I was like, excuse me, what? 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 I don't get it. What? So yeah, that's just a nice one. Really think about what your branding says on your website about you. Comic Sans is probably not the most professional choice. Now this one isn't really a shock, because we all know how sinister social media is, but this is when you whinge about a client. Now, I try not to do this anyway, but some people go to these Facebook groups, they talk about clients and stuff, and then some absolute heathen screenshots it and then figures out who the client is, or shares it, or it just takes it out of context, and is, and before you know it, you've got an angry client on your doorstep getting mad at you, right? Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with venting. I think just under the guise of GDPR, you can't really mention their personal details. But you need to be very careful. Just because a Facebook group, I don't know why people think it's a private Facebook group. Yeah, but people still screenshot Bob, and they're still going to send it out. It's not law on there, Oh, you very mockery. Well, you spoke out of turn about your client, and it was really obvious who it was. So you leaked enough GDPR possible information for them to find out who you are. Just got to say, perhaps tone back on the slating of your clients. Now, by all means, you can vent, but I would really consider where you're venting. And one of the things I've seen has been this big thing on one platform, I think it's TikTok, should we just say, although it was on Instagram stories, where people would vent about clients on there, forgetting that not everybody following them is just other photographers. Often it's the client or the client's family. So just remember, be careful where you put it. A personal hate, and only because I've been a victim of it, is when people go onto my pictures and decide to tell me how to correct them publicly. Now, I have no problems if you feel that you are absolutely sensational and you want to give me some unsolicited feedback. I'm going to use the word feedback. Why don't you just drop me a message? Why are you putting it on my pictures? Not only does then the client feel uncomfortable, but it makes you look like a proper douchebag. I've had it a few times. In fact, I can name 3 photographers who do this to me every time. And I don't block them, because actually they help sell me to more clients because they love my replies to them. And one of these people, I actually ended up with some of his clients because they were so angry about how he was speaking to me. So yeah, I feel like, and this is, if you're bitching about people, you're not working hard enough. and you're spending too much time doom scrolling. So get off and do your own work. By all means, if someone asks for critique, give critique. But you don't go onto the business page, seek out the image and then critique it there when they've not asked. There are even Facebook groups where if you want to go get your work ripped apart by people who've never posted a picture in their life, who use white vignette within an inch of its life and then go, yeah, that's not how I do, that's atrocious. And you're just like, all right, Norman, thanks for that. No one cares, Norman. This is one that I feel you can't win at all in, and that's trusting friends and family. Now, we all say, a real friend would pay us. Yeah, but you know they won't, and you've probably done it to them. The difference is when it's a distant cousin, like 14th removed cousin Vinny, by the way, it's a great movie, Cousin Vinny, says, oh, could you do a quick shoot? And it turns out it's a wedding. And you're like, yeah, I'll pay you. You never get paid. And then there's this weird sort of animosity at the next family funeral. And you're looking over at each other and you're like, well, you didn't pay me. And he's like, oh, why is he giving me, I'm family, blah, blah, blah. Even though we're really, really distant. We're not even on the same family tree. We're like in another like forest. But we're related because one of the acorns fell into our feet. I'm going on a tangent here. Anyway, that's what happens. You should not trust them. And I'll be honest, if you're ever working for friends and family like us, you're never getting paid. Now, one that kept coming up was people not getting deposits. Now, I prefer to call mine a booking retainer because you're retaining my services for that day. I just think it feels a bit better from a legal standpoint. Deposits are like in return for the shoot. The shoot doesn't happen for whatever reason, I believe. And what I understood, there was more legal standing to get the deposit back. That's what I have in my contract now. It's not called a deposit, it's called a booking retainer. Take that as you will, do your own investigation. But I find it really funny that people will arrange these big shoots, get makeup artist, whatever, and not take any form of money before they even book anything in. For me, there is no booking until there's at least something financially down. I think that's a great business incentive for you. And also, while we're on that subject, there is the photographers who told me that some clients won't pay until they've got the images. No. Now, sometimes in commercial world, I need to admit, that does happen. You normally deliver the images and then you get 30 days to pay. It's a little bit different, but we can come on to that in more detail on another podcast. But when it comes to regular Joe people, no. Pay up, always take the money beforehand. Don't do any work until you've been paid. And certainly, forgot why, I don't know why this photographer did this, order prints and products when they've not paid. Do not order unless you have that money in your account. And then they wondered why they were down £800 because the client didn't pay but still wanted the thing. Yeah. And while we're on that note, don't send the product to the client. They have to come collect it in person, because honestly, I've done it once back in the day and the client claimed they never got it, even though I had a photograph of them taking it, and then said it was damaged. So I ended up having to redo it at my cost. Now I know we've all done it, because I've certainly done it. I'm looking here, turning around, and I can see I've done it definitely, because there's 2 lenses on my desktop here that I shouldn't have really bought because I've used them all of 2 times. Should have rented them. If you can't find more shoots to do with that one item you're going to buy that would essentially buy it back twice, you shouldn't be doing it. You should just be renting it. Now, I often see people going to trade shows and buying these big lenses and going, I don't know, I just want it. And it makes me concerned. Now, by all means, it's your money. Spend what you want. But I will just say, if you're going to spend, make sure you're going to recoup the cost at least twice over as soon as you've got it. Because otherwise, it's just frivolous spending. All right? And while we're on that note, sometimes getting something that's far too heavy for you to manoeuvre isn't the best idea either. And I'm just going to say, at the photo show a couple of years ago, a man decided to put his huge lens, not a euphemism, on my head to bounce it because he couldn't hold it up on his own. And I found that quite rude, but I'm polite, so I stood there and let him use my head as a tripod. But equally, maybe he should have not got the lens or bought himself a monopod. I don't know what he was shooting at the trade show that needed it. It was a massive one. It's a 500mm lens? So maybe he was shooting someone's nostril hair. Good for him. And one that I have personally felt absolute pain over. Now, luckily for me, I had it, but it's insurance. People who don't have insurance. As you might know, I got mugged in London, and we won't go into the details because it's pretty awful. And I lost my camera gear. Now, I'm with Policy B. By the way, if you mention Khandie Photography, this is no way endorse. You do get a prize or a present or something, I'm told. I don't know, but blinking nectar, they cover well, in my personal opinion. I go overseas, they cover me. When I got attacked, I think it was the 24th of April, if I remember, the there was all sorts of faff going on with King Charles coming in, and there was bank holidays, and I was like, oh, I'm never getting this money. I'm not joking. Less than 10 days later, bearing in mind that was weekends, bank holidays, I had the money in my account, and actually the next day I already had my camera on my desk, my new one, because Wex had sent it to me so quickly. So be honest, yes, don't ever skip insurance. Now, from a personal point of view, and this photographer said, because I have seen this when I was a second shooter, and when this photographer who reached out to me on Instagram said it, back in my day, I stupidly didn't have insurance when I was working at a wedding. There was an accident and a kid fell over my camera stand and ended up needing to go to hospital. I feel absolutely appalling. The parents were really angry at me. Admittedly, luckily, it did not go to court because it was my negligence, and it was my negligence, but I had nothing to cover me and I would have had to have paid out of pocket. I feel absolutely awful to this day. I don't understand how anybody can operate without having any form of insurance, and I find it an absolute shocker that people still do, and people still hire people. I now show my clients my insurance certificate and public liability certificate. I am that person who has it on me digitally all the time. So as a warning, that's quite shocking. I hope the kid's all right. And, you know, I'm not saying these things happen because they shouldn't happen, but try not to let this eat you up. You've got a business now. There you go. Now, this one, I was listening to the Tin Studio podcast. If you're not listening, I highly recommend you listen to it. And it was about fake awards and bragging that you're the best photographer because you went and got an award. Now, I've won awards. Some of them are absolutely dubious. In fact, I won an award for something that I never knew I was entered into. And every year I get a slight twist on that award. So one year I'm wedding photographer of Northamptonshire, then I'm top wedding photographer of Northamptonshire, then I'm client's best wedding photographer of Northamptonshire, and it just keeps going. And I find them hilarious. Now, they're great for marketing to get some traction on your social media, but do they mean it? No. I also was invited to an award because I had been nominated for quite a prestigious award, it was told, in which I had to, in order to be considered, I had to attend the award, which meant I had to pay for a space. Now, they were only selling them at tables, and the tables were £5,000 a table, and that would get me on the short list to be considered on the night, and then they would tell me on the night if I had won. Now, as it so happened, I don't have £5,000 floating around to sit and have a swanky dinner with a load of people I don't know, nor did I have 10 friends who wanted to go to the award dinner anyway. But furthermore, what made me laugh is that only if you could attend the dinner were you able to go on the shortlist and win this so-called prestigious award or be in a chance for it. So that means that people who were working, who should have been winning the award but weren't there, were not considered. So basically, it's if you had enough free time in your diary and money to swank across to this award. Like, it made no sense. But then I saw the person who won, and it made me laugh because I was well aware that they were being slagged off in a bridal group. So for failing to deliver their images on time. So yeah, there is, but there's also some great awards. There are some many awards out there. But I'll be honest, what made me laugh at the Tin House Studios, they were laughing about people who have like you know, in what's it called when you win? So you get certain awards, they whack all their initials from these various places on the back of their thing. I've got this from the photographer, and most clients don't care. I literally get awards and I share them to say I've got this award, and then I put it on my on my signature when I'm emailing certain clients, but delete it when I'm emailing other photographers because clients need to know. But it's just marketing. And if I'm honest, some of the awards I haven't been like utterly like, oh wow, look at this, I've won it. It's for marketing. There are a few where I'm absolutely over the moon to win, which is the Rhythm and Posy Award, for example, the British Forces in Business Award, which was just amazing, and the one I won for the BBC, because those mean a lot because they were for projects that were passion projects, and that means a lot to me. But some of them I've gone, okay, yeah, of course I won that. And a funny story, there was a guy in this town where I live now, Northampton, who'd been a photographer for about 6 months. He was charging about 400 quid for a full day wedding, 10, 12 hours, I can't remember what it was, and an album. God knows what it was going to look like. And he won Best Photographer of Northampton and was telling everybody about it. Well, that was funny because in the post he announced it. There was 4 brides, right? Well, that's great, but can you give us our images because we've been waiting 6 months for them? He literally shot them the first couple of weeks he started business and still not giving them their images. But yeah, don't worry, he's award winning. Now, I talk about this a lot because it's very personal to me, and I think it's one that I really, really want to drive home. I don't care if people don't like me, and there's this need to be liked. I am an adult in business. I am not here to make friends on a playground. Yes, I make friends, and the people who like me will like me. The people who don't like me are not people I want to hang out with. And I am acutely aware there is people who go out of their way to dislike me, and all I can think of, you're not working hard enough, are you, my love? Now, this playground mentality exists because we're in the creative industry, and we are all worried we're not going to get money and we're not going to make a living out of it. And some people resort to petty tactic because they haven't matured beyond the age of 5. Okay? That happens. I don't let them take up much space, although I am talking about them on my podcast, so admittedly that seems a little bit ironic. However, here's the thing. If you want everyone to like you and you want to be everyone's best friend, you've got to exhaust yourself out. So why don't you just start being more like yourself and be the person you wish you could find on the scene? And then you might find out more people attract you and you get a better sort of experience in photography. I love that I've really leaned into my personality and allowed that to shine. I think shine. When people buy my book, and I keep tagging about it, it's on Amazon. It got to the top seller spot for 2 weeks. I was well impressed. It has sold, I can happily say, from the US to Japan. And I am absolutely over the moon. One of the best comments out of it, it's so like you, Khandie. I can hear you in every word. It's like you're right there. That means a lot to me. That means I really understood who I was writing to. Because the people who don't like my book, are not the people I've aimed the book at. And people who don't like the way I've written the book's not for them. And that's okay. I think it was Dita Von Teese that said you could be the juiciest peach in the bowl, but not everybody likes peaches. And I'm happy. I'm happy with that. By leaning into my personality, I've allowed myself to stand out, I believe. Maybe I'm only making ripples in a puddle and I'm not making waves in the sea. But I am doing something, and I'm noticing the more I lean into who I am and stand up for who I am and actually act as I am behind the camera with my friends, but this time in the community, I'm getting more opportunities because I'm not trying to fit in. I'm not deliberately trying to not fit in, but I'm just being very much like myself. And I think that's something that photographers seem to do. They kind of follow what other photographers do. Why? You're meant to be unique. You're meant to offer your client a unique experience. And you're saying, hey, I'm the better photographer for the job. So why are you trying to act like everybody else? Because that isn't going to make you seem unique. That isn't going to make you seem, that's the photographer I want, is it? So yeah, that's my 2 cents into that one. Read into that what you will. If you hate me, thanks for listening this far to the podcast. I'm sure you'll give a negative review on it and tell me I'm awful. But that's okay, because you're here listening and you got this far, so thanks for your time. And just before I sign off and do my last little point, I want to talk about the photo show, right? The photo and video show that's happening in the London XL in March 2025. Now, it used to be at the NEC in Birmingham, and they have said they're going back on 2026, and people are like, oh, it's in London, and there's a couple of naysayers. Now, I get it. It's a lot more expense to travel to London for some people. It's also not a lot more expense, a lot easier. And people are worried about negotiating the underground and do this. But the information on the website's all there, so you could do it. And I have the opinion that if you really, really want to make it in photography and you really wanted to do this, perhaps this is something you should be doing, is going there to network and making a weekend out of it, making a couple of days. Now, I know financially that is a privilege to be able to do that, but I do think we need to start thinking of it as less of a naysaying moment. Like, all right, well, London's there. That means I can get some street photography and I can link up with models and maybe shoot in the evening. Maybe I could go out for a pint with a couple of the photographers. That's not to say you couldn't do that in Birmingham, but it's nice to have a change because, to be honest, the photo show's been at Birmingham a hell of a long time. So if nothing else, a change of scenery. And I am super excited to be going. Now, admittedly, I am talking there. And I'm also doing a free-for-all Q&A where you can come along at 12 on the 10th and literally just say to me, Khandie, I've got some questions, can you answer? And I'm going to answer as many as I can legally because there are certain things under GDPR I don't want to be sharing. But I want to because I want people to get something out of this as well. And I'm going to offer a lot of free chin wags, and I'm hoping to arrange a photo walk maybe in the evening just so we can hang out, because I want people to really utilise how great it is. If you have a look on their website, there was already announced a lot of speakers and some of them are bloody beaut. I'm not just saying about that because I'm there. And there is a lot of free content. And for those of you who don't work very well in the classroom, or those who watch on YouTube but get distracted, go. There's great demos. I go along and watch the demos. And do you know what? Sometimes I think, oh, I know how to do Rembrandt lighting. I still go, still learn. I also just like being around the buzz. So I am going to go. And I want to see you there. Okay? Get your tickets. I've already given the discount code, I think, earlier on in the show. But yeah. I think, you know, I get some of the naysayers because they're worried about the cost. And yes, there is a cost because London's a little bit pricier. But for that amount of content and the fact that pro photographers can get in free, I think you would be laughing all the way into your business because there is so much free stuff. I've never seen so much free seminars from people who know what they're talking about. So I suggest you go. And my final faux pas in business, and this is from a personal one, and this is one when people come to me for advice. When you become a photographer, you can learn the skills of photography as you go along. But one thing you need to learn before you even start is how to run it as a goddamn business. It is not a hobby. You are using people's imagery and their data and taking their money. So why don't you learn how to run a business? Go on a few more business courses. Don't just go, how do photographers run a business? Actually learn about business from business-orientated people. Go to these business networking lunches. Go to these things. Learn how to run a business, because I tell you what, if you know how to do that, you're in a better step and better stead than some people. I have seen absolutely incredible photographers fall flat on their arse because they don't know how to run a business. This is not a hobby if you're hoping to take people's money. There is a lot of legality involved, and that's before you've even clicked the button. So I suggest go learn how to run a business before you jump on and go, hi, Facebook, I'm now Khandie Photography. I actually am Khandie Photography, don't do that. But you know, let's think about that. Run a business, not a hobby. I repeat, this is not a goddamn hobby, Maureen. Run it as a business. Anyway, I've been Khandie. This has been another episode. I'm really proud you're here. If you stayed here, well done. I'm absolutely ill, if you don't know. I've got a very nasty chest infection and I'm on a multiple course of antibiotics, which is why when you hear me breathing, it's quite... and I've been coughing quite a lot, which is why there's a few jump cuts in here. Have a great day. Don't be a douchebag, and I can't wait to see you at the photo show or on my YouTube or any other of my social media, because I like engaging with you. You're actually quite funny. Anyway, this has been me, Khandie. This has been The Loud Lens. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing, following along, leave me a 5-star rating, you name it. I can't wait to see you. I'm going to be on with some more hosts, I'm sure. I hope the sound quality's a little better. I messed up on the second episode because I was ill. I'm still ill now, but I've pushed the boat out a little bit more on the audio. Enjoy yourself, and at some point we'll have a jingle. Take care.